All right, let's get cozy. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Elizabeth. I am a third-year medical student, and today we are going to chat all about years 1 and 2 of medical school, what that's like, what my thoughts were, and just kind of some topics to give you guys a broad picture of my experience. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the first topic that we'll discuss is kind of how I studied and what the structure of years 1 and 2 are like. So firstly, this is very unique to every school. Like every school has a slightly different structure to the preclinical years, is what they're called, years 1 and 2. So at my school, basically what it was is you did like a system, like every man, the amnesia is really kicking in. Basically you cover a system every couple of weeks. So let's say respiratory system or cardiovascular system, you cover in 2 to 3 weeks. That includes the anatomy and the physiology, and then in year 2 you kind of get more into the pathology of each system. So each system has 2 to 3 exams per block, so you're looking at taking an exam every week, if not more, depending on your other classes. How I studied during preclinical years basically was Anki, my saving grace, Anki, and then going through like the PowerPoints and doing like in-depth like group reviews. So me and my best friend, we would get together and we would study and go through the PowerPoints in depth after we had both done our individual studying. And Anki was my go-to. Like I would basically do the Anki that was already pre-made. So like classes above us made Anki and then put it into a big like Google Drive basically. And then our class had access to all of the Anki, which is so nice of them, and they were so kind to share that with us. They deserve an award, some type of trophy. Bless them. I would not have survived without their Anki decks. So I would do the Anki for whatever lecture I was covering. So say I just had a lecture on respiratory anatomy, so going over the anatomy of the lungs, the anatomy of the trachea, the bronchi, etc. I would watch that lecture, actually watch it, and take whatever notes I needed, and then I would do the Anki for it. And basically you try to keep up and cover all of the Anki at least a day or 2 before the exam, because then that day or 2 before you review your Anki, and then like I said, you can work in a group or just do it on your own and just actually review through those PowerPoints. That's basically how I studied years 1 and 2. Year 2 got a little extra because of boards. So boards, I went to a DO school, so I have to take COMLEX and USMLE STEP. Well, I don't have to take STEP, but for certain residency programs, it is recommended. So I did personally go ahead and take STEP. And if you guys want a whole video on that, we can go over that too in a separate video. But basically, you take your boards at the end of year 2. And what I did is I started implementing board review pretty heavy in December. So in between fall and spring semester, my second year, is when I started doing questions really heavily and Anki really heavily. Now, I started technically at the beginning of second year, and I'm not a gunner, I swear. I'm not a gunner. My school really pushed for it. They really advocated for getting your board prep started as soon as possible. So whatever system we were in, let's say renal, which was the first course of second year for us, and I some renal based UWorld questions during the renal block. And not only did it help me study for my actual class exams, but also it was exposing me to board style questions and how they like to ask questions, because it is a little different from how my school's tests were formatted. The board questions are a lot longer. The length of those prompts is insane. Like the brain fatigue. Ooh. Legitimately little mini novels. No joke. Ooh, it's crazy. So it was good to get a head start on what those questions kind of looked like. And I think that doing it as far in advance as seems right to you is always going to be beneficial, because you want the time to get not only the concepts down of just learning the material, but also just the exposure on how quickly you need to be able to answer these questions, because it is a timed exam. You can't take forever, just like la-di-da-di-da, like let me take 20 minutes on this question. Like, no, you need to be quick. It's about a minute per question that you need to be able to answer and feel confident in that answer within a minute. So it's not easy, the timing. So definitely give yourself plenty of time to get used to the format, get used to the question style, and really solidify that content. I also used the first aid book, the USMLE step prep book, and basically what I did is, once Dedicated started, which Dedicated is the, I guess, month and a half leading up to boards, basically when your semester ends. So second year of medical school ends a little early compared to first year. During Dedicated, I used the first aid USMLE book and basically like read it and took notes on it and did questions. Like, I was doing a lot more questions during Dedicated than I was during the semester. And I basically flip-flopped between those two back and forth throughout Dedicated. And I passed both STEP and COMLEX, so it did work. It was hard. Board studying during second year is hard. It's challenging. It is not to be taken lightly. You really have to grind, and you have to have a schedule. You need to figure out what works best for you. But for me, I would do 10 questions every morning when I woke up. I woke up, before I did anything, I got my 10 questions out of the way. So then if I had lecture or lab or an exam or whatever, like, I already knew that I'd gotten some questions done. Having that structure is so crucial, so crucial. That, I think, makes second year of medical school the hardest out of the years I've experienced so far, because you are trying to balance like the intensity of first year, which was already hard, and then you're adding in board studying, and you've never taken boards before, so you have no idea what you're doing, what's going on, what to expect. Like, it's a little chaotic, but once you find your structure and your routine, stick to it. Next thing that we will chat about is balancing life during first and second year and kind of what that looks like. So in order to create a balance during years 1 and 2 of medical school, you need to analyze what your priorities are outside of medical school. And I would choose 3. Realistically, more than 3 is going to probably be pushing it. So pick 3 priorities, whether that's the gym, if you have kids or a spouse, like your family, and then another hobby, or, you know, just pick 3 things that you want to absolutely, positively make time for every day, every week, things that will keep you grounded and keep you sane. And I think once you have that in your mind, it's so much easier to structure your day around those things and with those things included. So for example, in first year, you have a lot of on-campus classes, labs, events, like all kinds of things are going on campus on first year. So you don't have as much flexibility Like second year, you definitely have a lot more flexibility in your schedule, at least from my experience at my school. So what I would do is, okay, I know I need to be in lab at 10 a.m. So what I would do is I would set at least 1 hour of that time for me. That's whatever I want it to be. 1 hour in the morning for myself. And for me, that was always time for the gym. I used working out as a massive stress relief, and I still need that stress relief even in third year. So, but whatever it is for you, if it's running, if it's a walk, if it's meditation, if it's just doom scrolling on TikTok, like whatever you need to decompress a little and have a little you time, structure it into your day. Every single day might look a little different, but do it. You have to. Otherwise you're gonna go a little crazy. And now I kind of want to transition and talk a little bit about extracurriculars, research. Are they necessary? Like that whole genre, because it is very overwhelming. What I have told the pre-meds that I mentor and the first years that I mentor is you need to decide what category of residency program you want. And when I say this, I mean, like, do you want to be the top neurosurgeon in the world? Are you at that level? Is that your dream? Is that your goal? Do you want to just, and no shade, I love every specialty is important, but in terms of getting into a residency program, there are differences in the specialties. Some specialties are a lot harder to get into than others. So neurosurgery, even like some dermatology residencies, anesthesiology, like those are more in the top category of competitiveness. And then you have the middle, so internal medicine, trying to think of other ones. Internal medicine is like kind of the perfect example of like a middle ground specialty for residency programs. Like it's not competitive. Like you definitely need to do well and put in some effort, but like you're not talking like surgery and anesthesiology level. A step below that, you're thinking like family med, peds, like I want to do pediatrics, so it's really no shade. But you know, there are the less competitive residencies kind of in this category. So you need to determine what level you are looking at. You don't need to necessarily have your specialty down pack, and based off of that, then you can kind of gauge how much volunteering you're going to need, how many published research projects you're going to need, conference presentations, leadership opportunities, all of that, because for those top category of residencies, you're going to need a lot more than the middle and the lower section. And I would highly suggest doing some research on that because it does kind of fluctuate every year. But just in a general sense, that's kind of my guideline for deciding, like, are you good enough for getting into that residency and that specialty? And of course, there's so much more than just your academics, than just your research. How you apply to residency is a full picture of you, and you need to kind of have a very well-rounded portfolio and well-rounded application. So that wraps up this video. I hope that kind of gives some good tips and a good oversight to years 1 and 2 of medical school, and some things that I have learned and what I have experienced as a now third year, halfway through third year. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.